In the quiet sanctuary of an American suburban home, you suddenly notice your mature golden retriever snap awake. Its gaze freezes, the musculature along its spine tightens, and it begins to bark ferociously at a corner of the room that appears entirely vacant to you. Human instinct often turns toward paranormal hypotheses or mystical anomalies. However, through the rigorous lens of evolutionary biology, the reality reveals a purely scientific and far more astonishing mechanism. Your dog is not staring into an empty void. It is actively decoding a physical stratum of reality that human anatomical structures are entirely unequipped to perceive. While human senses have systematically degraded or been streamlined to adapt to modern social living, the canine species has preserved a highly complex, ultra-sensitive, and multifaceted biological radar system. From analyzing volatile organic compounds to detect malignant cells long before advanced medical imaging can, to calculating local variations in the geomagnetic field and barometric pressure, these four-legged organisms inhabit a brilliant, multidimensional sensory world. Today, we will deconstruct the fog of human perception and decode the top 20 physical, chemical, and biological phenomena that your dog sees, hears, and feels every single day. Let us step inside the macrosensory universe of mankind's ultimate companion. 1. Microclimate deviations and thermal air currents. The phenomenon of a dog barking at a blank wall is routinely misattributed to the supernatural. In contrast, atmospheric physics demonstrates that canines possess acute sensitivity to microclimate deviations. They can detect subtle infrasonic waves caused by abrupt pressure changes in local air currents or the accumulation of static electricity in dead corners. What humans interpret as a spectral presence is in fact a localized fluid dynamics disturbance that we are anatomically blind to. 2. The chemical signature of pathology. The canine olfactory system is an evolutionary marvel, housing over 300 million olfactory receptors, compared to a meager 6 million in humans. This hyperacute apparatus allows them to isolate volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, metabolized and released by malignant cells via human breath or sweat glands at concentrations as low as parts per billion. In diabetic individuals, a dog can immediately detect the distinct scent of ketones when blood glucose levels drop dangerously low, functioning as a real-time, non-invasive diagnostic monitor. 3. Magnetoreception and local geomagnetism. A dog's behavior of spinning in calculated circles prior to elimination is far from a random behavioral quirk. It is a precise biological calibration. Behavioral studies have confirmed the presence of cryptochrome, a light-sensitive protein within the canine retina. This molecule grants them the ability to perceive or align with the geomagnetic field lines of the planet. Canines exhibit a statistically significant preference to align their body axis along a north-south vector during excretion, utilizing an internal global positioning system rooted in Earth's magnetics. 4. Chemosignaling of gestational endocrine shifts. The foundation of human-canine interaction relies heavily on chemosignaling. Upon the onset of pregnancy, an American woman's endocrine system undergoes a massive surge, drastically altering baseline levels of estrogen, progesterone, and HCG. This systemic hormonal fluctuation completely rewrites the body's specific odor profile. Your golden retriever detects this chemical shift during the earliest stages of gestation, automatically activating its evolutionary pack preservation instincts to protect the future generation. 5. Infrasonic geodynamics and meteorological fluctuations. A canine's ability to predict natural disasters is rooted in two precise variables: infrasonic detection and middle ear baroreception. Prior to seismic events or severe meteorological disruptions, tectonic displacements and clashing air masses generate infrasound acoustic waves propagating below 20 Hz. While entirely below the human auditory threshold, This frequency falls squarely within the operational range of canine hearing. Concurrently, their specialized middle ear anatomy functions as a living barometer, registering sharp drops in atmospheric pressure hours before the event occurs. 6. Olfactory decoding of neurochemical affection. Humans can easily mask profound sorrow with superficial facial expressions, but they cannot deceive the canine olfactory apparatus. When you experience intense emotional states like grief, anxiety, or fear, your endocrine system immediately discharges specific biochemicals, such as cortisol or adrenaline, through sweat glands and lacrimal fluid. Your dog does not merely observe your tears, it actively inhales the chemical signals of your psychological stress and initiates targeted, comforting behaviors that clinically lower the human heart rate. 7. Pheromonal indicators of hostility and stress. When an individual harboring malicious intent approaches their autonomic nervous system, involuntarily triggers a fight or flight response, secreting elevated levels of stress pheromones and adrenaline. Canines possess the biochemical machinery to isolate these compounds instantaneously from a distance. When synthesized with their ability to read human microexpressions, such as asymmetric facial muscle tension or rigid postures, the dog immediately triggers defensive vocalizations to protect its owner from a verified biological threat. 8. The olfactory chronometer. How does a dog accurately predict the exact moment its owner returns from work? The mechanism relies on the concept of an olfactory clock. When you leave the household in the morning, the concentration of your specific scent molecules fills the environment at its maximum density. Over the course of the day, these aromatic volatile compounds diffuse and decay at a linear, physically predictable rate. The canine brain learns that when the scent concentration drops below a precise percentage threshold, it serves as a temporal constant indicating your imminent arrival. 9. Early-stage biodegradation detection. A dog's ability to perceive impending mortality contains no mystical element. Rather, it is a hyperacute awareness of early-stage biodegradation. Prior to systemic biological shutdown, failing internal organs alter the body's baseline glucose and lipid metabolic pathways. The patient's breath, skin secretions, and excretory compounds release distinct chemical signatures of metabolic collapse. Trained therapy dogs identify this specific olfactory frequency, choosing to remain stationary beside the individual to offer comfort during their final biological transition. 10. The ultrasonic auditory spectrum. While the human auditory spectrum terminates abruptly at 20,000 Hz, the canine ear can register acoustic vibrations up to 45,000 Hz or higher. Consequently, what appears to be absolute silence within an American home is often an ultrasonic cacophony to your dog. They easily hear the alternating current humming through structural wiring, the high-frequency electronic whine of malfunctioning appliances, or the minute mechanical friction of tiny rodents moving inside drywall 3 rooms away. 11. Ultraviolet spectrum absorption. Modern ocular biology demonstrates that the lenses within a canine eye allow ultraviolet UV light to pass through, an evolutionary trait that human eyes discarded to protect the macula. By absorbing the UV spectrum, canines perceive a highly contrast-rich visual environment. Organic fluids, such as animal urine, which contain chemical compounds that heavily absorb UV light, appear to a dog as vibrant, glowing neon navigation markers across the terrain, turning a simple walk into a dense map of visual data. 12. Tapetum lucidum. Photonic retroreflection. Canine visual acuity in low-light environments exceeds that of humans by a factor of 5, facilitated by an anatomical adaptation known as the tapetum lucidum. This is a specialized layer of retroreflective cells situated immediately behind the retina. When entering, light passes through the eye. This membrane reflects the photons directly back through the retina a second time, granting the photoreceptors a double exposure to absorb light energy. This reflective process is what causes their eyes to emit a bright green luminescence under nocturnal illumination. 13. Mechanical detection of primary seismic P waves. During a seismic event, energy propagates through the crust via distinct acoustic waves. Song P, or primary compressional waves, travel the fastest but carry low amplitudes, making them virtually imperceptible to human mechanoreceptors. Canines, utilizing a highly dense network of specialized pressure-sensitive mechanoreceptors within their paw pads, detect the mechanical vibrations of these P waves minutes before the highly destructive S waves, secondary shear waves, arrive, providing a critical window for survival instincts to engage. 14. Barometric and atmospheric electrostatics. Prior to the arrival of a severe thunderstorm, intense friction between thermal air masses within the upper atmosphere generates an immense accumulation of static electrical charge. A dog possessing a dense fur coat that acts as a natural capacitor directly experiences this rising electrostatic field as a mild prickling sensation across its dermis. This somatic feedback, paired with the internal pressure variations in their middle ear, enables them to identify a building storm system long before any visible signs materialize on the horizon. 15. Chemoanalytical toxicology of fluids. When approaching a water source, humans assess purity primarily through visual clarity, whereas canines evaluate it through complex chemical analysis. Utilizing an olfactory surface area 50 times greater than our own, a dog's nose can deconstruct and isolate the concentrations of organic pollutants, cyanobacteria, neurotoxins, or heavy metal ions suspended in the liquid. If your golden retriever adamantly refuses to drink from a crystal-clear stream, it is because its analytical filtration system has isolated a lethal toxicological profile. 16. High-frequency acoustic signaling. The silent training whistle serves as an elegant demonstration of sensory asymmetry between species. When compressed, it generates acoustic waves oscillating between 23,000 and 54.000 Hz. This frequency entirely bypasses the vibrational capacity of the human tympanic membrane, rendering it completely silent to our ears. To the canine auditory cortex, however, it registers as a sharp, high-amplitude and unmistakable command that cuts cleanly through ambient environmental noise. 17. Infrared thermoreception via the rhinarium. Neuroscientists at Lund University discovered that the cold, moist, unhaired tip of the canine nose, the rhinarium, is wired with specialized thermal receptors that function as an infrared radiation sensor. This specialized apparatus allows canines to map the thermal radiation emitted by warm-blooded organisms from meters away, even in total darkness. This thermoreceptive capability explains why a dog can immediately locate an inflamed or injured joint on their owner's body instinctively, applying localized pressure to provide soothing thermal therapy. 18. Bioelectrical field interaction. Every muscular contraction and neural pathway within a living organism generates minute bioelectrical impulses. Canines possess the capacity to detect these weak, localized electrical fields via their highly sensitive tactile hairs, or vibrissae, and the specialized rhinarium. This bioelectric sensitivity accounts for their uncanny ability to track and capture small camouflaged prey in low-visibility environments, as well as their elevated stress responses when exposed to intense static electrical fields preceding natural phenomena. 19. Fluid dynamics and stereoolfaction. While humans determine wind direction via the mechanoreceptors of the skin, canines utilize stereoolfaction. A dog's nostrils function independently, allowing them to sample separate columns of air and compute the minute discrepancies in scent molecule concentration between the left and right nasal cavities within milliseconds. This continuous fluid dynamics calculation inside the canine brain allows them to build a highly accurate 3D vector map of smells tracking a target flawlessly, regardless of turbulent wind shifts. 20. olfactory chronomapping, and long-term memory. When entering an ancient room, human vision records static material architecture. To your dog, however, that same space is a living archive woven from molecular history. Aromatic volatile compounds can remain bound to porous surfaces like fabric and wood for months or even years. The canine central nervous system stores and cross-references these specific olfactory profiles with past experiences. They can instantly decode who occupied the space, their precise emotional state at that moment, and maintain a tangible sensory link to a companion who has long since departed. Through the cold analysis of biological architecture and physical mechanisms, we come to understand that the behaviors we frequently label as odd or eccentric in our dogs are actually the output of a highly superior information processing engine. Canines do not share our sensory reality. They operate a highly advanced biological defense network, an organic sensor array that functions 24/7 to safeguard the core of their pack. And that pack is you. When you surrender to deep sleep, when you face the silent onset of an illness, or when invisible environmental hazards approach your home, this animal remains fully awake. It silently utilizes its extraordinary evolutionary toolkit to act as your primary sentinel. The ancient relationship between man and dog is therefore not merely a story of domestication, but a magnificent evolutionary symbiosis rooted in absolute vigilance and unconditional loyalty. Now that you have looked behind the veil of the canine macrosensory world, have you noticed these extraordinary warning signs in your own home? Leave the name of your loyal companion and share your experience in the comments below. Be sure to hit the subscribe button as we continue to unpack the profound science of the animal kingdom. Thank you for watching.